Today I want to talk about something important, something that many of you might be doing without even realizing its potential harm. It's the habit of telling everyone your plans. Yes, I'm serious. Many people love to announce every single idea they have, every business plan, every dream to anyone who would listen. Some of you probably do it on social media, right? Hey guys, I'm starting a new business. Wish me luck. Or I'm planning to do this, do that. But listen carefully, my young friends. Don't tell everyone your plans. Today, I'm going to explain why. You see, when I was younger, I made the same mistake. I was so excited about my ideas that I couldn't wait to tell everyone. I would sit down with my friends and we'd talk for hours about what we would do. We would talk about starting companies, changing the world, and becoming billionaires. Oh, how fun it was to dream. But then I noticed something. Every time I talked about my plans, things didn't go as well as I hoped. The reason? Too many opinions. When you tell everyone your plans, what happens? Everyone starts giving you advice. Advice from people who have never done what you're trying to do. Advice from people who are scared of taking risks themselves. Advice from people who, let's be honest, sometimes don't want to see you succeed. It's like inviting 100 chefs into your kitchen to make a single dish. Too many cooks spoil the broth, my friends. Too many voices confuse your direction. And then there's another problem. When you speak too much about your plans, you use up all the excitement in talking, not doing. Think about it. When you tell someone your big idea, they might say, "Wow, that sounds amazing." And for a moment, it feels like you've already succeeded. You feel good. But the problem is that feeling of accomplishment you get from talking replaces the drive you need to actually do it. Instead of spending energy on execution, you spend it on conversation. Instead of working quietly, you're busy seeking validation. My advice? Keep quiet. Let your actions do the talking. Now, some of you might be thinking, "But Jack, what's wrong with sharing my ideas? Shouldn't I ask for feedback? Shouldn't I get advice from people who care about me?" Well, here's where things get tricky. Of course, you should seek guidance, but not from everyone. You see, not all advice is good advice. Let me give you an example. When I started Alibaba, nobody believed in us. People thought I was crazy. An e-commerce business in China? Are you serious? The internet is for Western countries, Jack, not China. I remember one of my teachers telling me, "Jack, maybe you should stick to teaching. Business is too risky." If I had listened to them, if I had shared my full vision with everyone and allowed them to plant doubts in my mind, do you think Alibaba would exist today? Of course not. Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who unknowingly hold you back. Not because they don't love you, but because they don't see what you see. Your vision is your vision. It's personal. It's unique. They haven't walked in your shoes. They haven't experienced your thoughts, your dreams, your aspirations. So how can they truly understand what you're trying to achieve? That's why I say, don't tell everyone your plans. Not everyone is ready to hear them. Not everyone is ready to believe in you the way you believe in yourself. And most importantly, not everyone is capable of giving you the right kind of advice. It's like planting a seed. You don't pull the seed out every day to show everyone what you're growing. No. You leave it in the soil. You water it, you take care of it. And one day, it becomes a tree. Then, and only then, can people see the results of your hard work. When you're quiet about your plans, something magical happens. You become more focused. You stop worrying about what others think, and you start focusing on the work itself. That's when real progress happens. Let me share a funny story with you. When I first started building Alibaba, there was a lot of noise. Everyone was talking about the dot-com bubble, about how e-commerce would never work in China. I remember attending business meetings and people would say, "Jack, you're wasting your time. Nobody in China wants to buy things online. We prefer to go to the markets, touch the products, bargain for the price." But what did I do? Did I go around arguing with them, trying to convince them they were wrong? No. I kept my mouth shut and worked hard. I kept my vision close to my heart and focused on building something amazing. We were a small team, working day and night, eating instant noodles, sleeping in the office. We didn't have time to talk. We were too busy working. And guess what? When Alibaba finally took off, everyone was shocked. "How did this happen?" they asked. And I smiled. "I told you so," I thought. But I didn't say it out loud, of course. That's the beauty of quiet execution. You surprise people with results, not words. Now let's talk about something else, jealousy. This is a hard truth, but not everyone will be happy for you when you succeed. In fact, some people will be envious. They might smile to your face, but deep down, they don't want you to win. And you know what? When you tell these kinds of people your plans, they can sabotage you, sometimes without even realizing it. I'm sure many of you have experienced this. You tell someone your dream, and instead of supporting you, they say things like, "Are you sure? That sounds risky," or "Do you think you're really capable of doing that?" Their doubts start to creep into your mind. You begin questioning yourself, and before you know it, you've lost confidence in your own ability. That's what jealousy does. It's subtle, it's sneaky, and it can destroy your dreams before they even start. So what's the solution? Simple. Don't give people the opportunity to be jealous. Keep your plans to yourself. Let them find out about your success when it's too late to stop you. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you should never tell anyone your plans. Of course, there are times when you need advice, when you need feedback, when you need to bounce ideas off someone else. But here's the key. Be selective. Don't share your plans with people who don't understand your vision. Don't share them with people who are negative or pessimistic. Instead, find a small group of trusted individuals, people who believe in you, people who have experience, people who can offer constructive criticism. In my case, I had a few close friends and mentors who supported me during the early days of Alibaba. They didn't always understand what I was doing, but they believed in my ability to figure it out. They encouraged me to keep going, even when things got tough. And let me tell you, things got really tough. There were times when we had no money, no resources, no hope. But because I surrounded myself with the right people, I was able to push through the challenges. I didn't need 100 opinions, I just needed a few good ones. Let's address another issue, fear. Sometimes we tell everyone our plans because we're afraid. Afraid of failing, afraid of looking foolish, afraid of making mistakes. We think that by telling others, we're somehow protecting ourselves. We think that if we announce our plans to the world, we'll be held accountable and therefore more likely to succeed. But here's the truth. Fear is a terrible motivator. If you're making decisions out of fear, you're not thinking clearly. You're not acting from a place of confidence. Instead, you're letting other people's opinions control your actions. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Failure is part of the journey. In fact, it's essential. When I started Alibaba, I failed many times. I made so many mistakes that I lost count, but I didn't give up. I didn't let fear stop me from moving forward. And you shouldn't either. If you keep your plans to yourself, you eliminate the fear of judgment. You allow yourself the freedom to experiment, to fail, to learn without the pressure of outside opinions. And in doing so, you give yourself the best chance of success. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, nobody cares about your plans. They care about your results. You can talk all day long about what you're going to do, but if you don't deliver, it's meaningless. That's why I always say, let success speak for itself. When Alibaba became successful, people were shocked. They couldn't believe that this small team of underdogs had built one of the largest e-commerce companies in the world. But by then, it was too late for them to criticize or doubt us. The results spoke for themselves. And that's the point I want to make today. If you keep your plans to yourself, you protect your vision. You shield it from negativity, doubt, and jealousy. You give yourself the time and space to focus on what really matters, execution. When you finally achieve your goals, people will see the results. They won't need an explanation. They won't need to hear about all the plans you made. They'll see the success with their own eyes. And that's when you'll know you made the right decision by keeping quiet. So, my young friends, as you embark on your journeys, remember this. Silence is your superpower. Don't waste time telling everyone your plans. Don't seek validation from people who don't understand your vision. Don't let fear drive your decisions. Instead, focus on the work. Let your actions speak louder than your words. Let your success surprise those who doubted you. And most importantly, trust yourself. You have everything you need to succeed. You just need to stay focused, stay quiet, and keep pushing forward. One day, when you've achieved your dreams, people will ask you how you did it. And you'll smile because you'll know that the secret to your success was simple. You kept your plans to yourself. Thank you.
So if you take your goals right now, can you think of 2 goals right now in your head? What's the time frame on both those goals? And if you said one's a year, one's 2 years, why not do one now and also do the other one now? And let's just quit f***ing around with these next 2 years. Because the next 2 years, I would like to actually be doing big shit instead of saying, well, we're working our way up. Hey, dude, that's your old life. Only crazy people will remember. Only crazy people do things that inspire other people. Because if it's not crazy, then we see everything else that's going on, it won't catch my attention. And so if you want people saying, how'd you do it? Well, I believed in myself. I put my back against the wall before the rest of the world thought I was ready. I knew I was ready. You're not going to talk like you used to talk. You're not going to have the same language. You're not going to have the same focus. You're going to be focusing on different stuff now. Your body's going to start looking different, dude. Like, you just woke up, you're going to get serious. But when you start doing this, like people that you are with currently in your life right now, I just want fair warning, like you've been put on notice, that 95% of them will not be okay with that. For anybody right now that doesn't have the life that they want, that doesn't have it, I need you to think, do you know what it looks like? Do you know what you want? I'm going to tell you this. You will always commonly hear me talk to you guys about mindset. Always. Always, okay? Because look, if you go into a fight and you think you're going to lose, you're going to lose. Am I right? If you go into a fight and you think you're going to lose, you're going to get knocked out. Yes. You can never doubt yourself. Never. How many of you right now, guess what, are a little bit comfortable? Okay? Burn that. Burn that. Guys, I want to say this. Stay starving. Not stay hungry, stay starving. Guys, how do you stay starving? Well, you got to have something in front of you that you're chasing. Listen, I have a vision of who I want to be in front of me at all times. And I take inventory of that daily. And I wonder, am I becoming that guy? Or did I stall out? Right? Like, am I in neutral right now? Or am I in 5th gear? Or some of you are in reverse. So many of you right now, you're capable of so much. You know this. You're resilient, you're a grinder, you're hungry, you're starving, your story matters, your name matters. Up to this point, how bad is your story? How crazy is it? What did you do? Who did you screw over? Okay? Who was you mean to? Who are the people that loved you and then you betrayed them? That's a part of your past. What will we do from today forward? Because that's all that matters. By the way, can I tell you this? What's y'all's favorite movie? The movie where it starts out where some rich kid gets a bunch of money from his dad, spends a whole bunch of money, the whole movie goes by, he buys whatever he wants, he never has a problem, and then the movie ends? Or is it a movie like Rocky, where he was the underdog? Nobody thought he was going to make it. He had everything going against him. And the underdog, the David, smashed the Goliath because they believed in themselves, because they did the work, because they told themselves who they were, and they didn't give up and they had hope. Guys, those are their favorite stories. The stories that start out with the dude living in his car, right, and is a drug addict, but then pulls himself out and ends up changing a whole country.
When we're overwhelmed, it's like our brain stops working. Exhaustion sets in and burnout is right around the corner. To reignite our motivation, we need to understand what causes the brain to get fatigued in the first place. Say you're studying for an exam. You start out first thing in the morning with a fresh mind, making flashcards, trying to memorize them, but around the 2-hour mark, you find it harder and harder to focus. Pulling the information out of your brain starts to feel like pulling teeth. 3 hours in, and time seems to be grinding forward at a snail's pace. Your motivation to continue studying is low, Along with this difficulty maintaining attention and low motivation, you feel tiredness in your body. Your eyes droop, your posture's terrible, and your stomach is growling. This is mental fatigue, and we've all experienced it. But what is going on in the brain when that happens? Now, your brain is a vast, highly interconnected and complex network of about 86 billion neurons and an even greater number of non-neuronal cells. These cells are connected in intricate patterns that vary widely across different regions of the brain. Accordingly, different areas of the brain have different functions. For example, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex is important for careful reasoning and planning, while the ventromedial and orbital frontal cortex are important for evaluating options as well as experiencing and regulating emotions. Now, you'll notice that I'm using phrases like brain area X is involved in or important for function Y, rather than saying that brain area X causes function Y. That's because no brain area acts alone. When it comes to planning and reasoning, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex is working with areas deep in the brain like the anterior cingulate, the striatum, and the hippocampus, as well as other cortical areas like the parietal cortex. So this means that for the brain to do anything, there has to be efficient communication across the various regions. Think of the brain like a huge band, where brain regions are individual musicians and where mental functions are the songs played by the band. If one band member isn't playing his part, if he's delayed, too fast, or just playing a different tune altogether, the song is not going to sound good. If all the band members are playing at different tempos, or maybe some are taking a break while others are playing, there won't really be a song to speak of. Similarly, if the brain regions involved in a given mental function are out of sync with each other, it will be much harder for the brain to carry out that function. Now, one of the most interesting findings from the neuroscience of mental fatigue is that when we've been working on a task for a very long time, it seems that this synchronization begins to break down. For example, fMRI scans have shown that mental fatigue is correlated with lower global connectivity, higher path length, and reduced small worldness. In other words, the connectivity among brain regions that's required for us to do any kind of mentally demanding task deteriorates. Brain regions don't communicate with each other as efficiently, and the brain regions that typically show a very high degree of connectivity seem to reduce that communication. So to quickly summarize what I've discussed so far, efficient communication across brain regions is crucial for optimal cognitive function. Plus, mental fatigue is associated with reduced efficiency in this kind of communication. As we'll see later on, understanding these mechanisms is helpful for developing strategies to combat fatigue and enhance cognitive resilience. Still, none of this answers why the brain exhibits this pattern in response to prolonged effort. To answer that, we have to think about what makes us feel mentally drained. So as a quick aside, while I have a full list of references in the description of this video, I want to emphasize that I'm relying pretty heavily on a 2022 review by Albert Koch, published in the journal Brain and Cognition. Okay, so let's get back to what makes us feel mentally fatigued in the first place. Like we saw earlier with the studying example, as we spend more and more time on a mentally demanding task, we get more and more fatigued and less motivated to pay attention. Yet, if you think about it, it seems kind of weird. Wouldn't you expect that if the brain engages in the same task for a long period of time, then the task would seem easier, not harder? After all, neurons are constantly forming new connections, so wouldn't the neural pathways associated with the task get more efficient over time? Indeed, that is what happens over the course of days and weeks of deliberate practice. But why doesn't it happen over the course of hours of continuous practice? Muscles provide a helpful analogy for answering that question. You can only run or lift weights for so long before your muscles get severely fatigued, and eventually they simply give out entirely. This is due to the depletion of energy stores, the accumulation of metabolic byproducts, and the inability of muscle fibers to sustain prolonged contraction and performance. But let those muscles rest for a couple days, and they're not only healing, but they actually become stronger as a result. Something similar is happening in the brain during mental exercise. It's not that brain cells are breaking down in exactly the same way as muscle cells, but it does seem that an important contributing factor to mental fatigue is the depletion of a critical neurotransmitter molecule, dopamine. Optimal dopamine levels have been shown to lead to better cognitive performance and, importantly, to high levels of motivation. Dopamine tends to make us feel good, but its more direct function is to activate brain regions like the striatum and the prefrontal cortex and to help coordinate their function. These brain regions are critically important for working memory, the type of memory that we use to keep information at the front of our minds. Now, it seems that the striatum and cortex work together to gate information in and out of working memory. When dopamine levels drop too low, these corticostriatal pathways that allow for working memory seem to stop working as efficiently. But dopamine is also involved in learning, especially learning from positive or negative feedback. So, if dopamine levels drop too low, our ability to learn from feedback also declines. Interestingly, it's also been shown that too much dopamine has a similar effect on cognition, leading to the idea that there is a range of optimal dopamine levels, outside of which cognitive control and motivation begins to break down. Now, dopamine, like all neurotransmitters, needs to be resynthesized. In other words, we don't have an infinite store of dopamine at any given time.
El 99% de la gente solo sueña. El 1% toma acción. ¿De qué lado estás? No llegaste a este canal por casualidad. Estás aquí porque buscas más éxito, más control, más poder sobre tu futuro. En el arte del negocio no solo hablamos de dinero. Hablamos de la mente, la estrategia y la mentalidad que separa a los ganadores de los que solo imaginan. Cada semana rompemos mitos, exploramos la neurociencia del éxito y te damos herramientas reales para transformar tu vida. Pero escucha bien, el éxito no es para todos, es para quienes están listos para dar el siguiente paso. ¿Estás preparado? Suscríbete ahora, activa la campana y únete a la comunidad que desafía lo imposible.